okay. It's working just fine.
I wasn't asking about your camera. I was worried about you.
But you see, this camera is my life. Get yourself a new life.
Hello, everybody. We've got some stuff to talk about. So it's come to my attention that Alex from Nomics posted a video titled Let's Talk. All these ridiculous statements came out of this man's mouth, essentially just saying, fuck off to regular old collectors, hobbyists. The video came across as extremely out of touch with the average consumer, with the average fan and collector. It's wild. It has a lot of dislikes, and for a good reason. I mean, the video was out of touch, insulting to a lot of people. I would go as far to call it tone deaf. I did watch the whole thing. The end is where it got real bad, and I think that's why, so many of his comments are negative. Right at the end there, he just jabbed in a bunch of insults at people who work regular 9-to-5 jobs. It was very strange, really weird take on all the things that are happening in the hobby right now. And let's just talk about it. I kind of want to read some of the comments together with you guys. It is interesting to see the shift in the mindset with certain creators as of recently, because Alex is not the first creator that's sort of switched up and is now pro investor bro. Everyone who isn't an investor and scalper is a crybaby Timmy. And these are grown men, guys, out there calling each other crybaby Timmys. Grown men, adults. Just saying. I was a preschool teacher for 8 years, and I swear to God, my preschool class behaved better than most of the grown men in the Pokemon hobby right now. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and read the comments. I did already watch the video. I'm not gonna be reacting to the video again. This one has 134 likes. Breaking. Scalper tells people to not hate scalpers. That is what it's giving. But here's a comment that I really tend to agree a lot with. Gonna counter your point about people complaining, hobbies also shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't be hard to find new product on store shelves. I don't think complaining really helps, but I do think people should be allowed to vent their frustrations even if nobody cares. I think you showed a level of inconsideration of other people's situations. A lot of people can't approach this hobby with the way that investors and money bros do. Tell them to take a break if they're frustrated or to just work more hours is kind of an ass move. I could not agree more that telling people to work more is probably the most asinine thing I have ever heard. Work yourself to death to be able to afford Pokemon cards. This man has lost touch. I also want to highlight the sentiment about hobbies shouldn't be stressful. The hobby shouldn't be stressful. Pokemon was always a hobby that people used for escapism from the real world, from their jobs, from our shitty lives, right? This hobby has always been a form of escapism. That's literally what Pokemon has always been. So for true collectors, yeah, we don't want the hobby to be stressful. We don't want to have to go to 20 targets to try and find a singular pack of Pokemon cards. We don't want to buy from people who are scalping them and trying to sell them for double the price. Absolutely not. So for collectors and hobbyists to be speaking their mind about the situation and be upset, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I personally think we should be speaking out about this stuff and should continue to until the Pokemon company decides to do something about it. There's no reason people shouldn't be allowed to speak their feelings and their mind about things. Unfortunately, the scalpers and investor bros usually resort to just calling you a Timmy crybaby bitch because they're emotionally stunted or something and they're 2 years old in the brain. But yeah, a hobby like this, honestly, yeah, it shouldn't be stressful. And people being upset that it is at the moment is completely normal and valid. Not gonna lie, what you were saying was fine. I don't think it was all fine, but that's my opinion. Until the last few minutes of the video is very much tone deaf. Telling people to not go for the current set or the previous set, but to go 4 sets back is insane. It's not even this is some limited edition product. This is the standard product. This is something else that I feel the investor bros keep throwing in our faces. They keep saying things oh, well, yeah, you can't get Prismatic or Blooming Waters, but there's plenty of other cards on the shelf. There's plenty of other things on the shelf. Okay, I don't know about anybody else, but where I live, there has been literally 0 product on the Pokemon shelves for about 4 weeks now. Literally nothing. There's literally nothing to buy. Telling people that they shouldn't be upset that they cannot get the new set ever is fucked up. Of course, people are going to be upset that they can't get their hands on the new set. This isn't even coming from my personal feelings, because I am a vintage collector. I don't really collect the modern stuff. I pick up a few cards here and there that I think are like pretty, but I really like am mostly a vintage collector. So this whole thing isn't really affecting me as much, though my son loves the modern sets because this is what he's growing up with, is the Scarlet and Violet era of Pokemon. His favorite starters are Quaxly, Fuecoco, and Sprigatito. Like, this is what the kids are growing up with right now. Like, this is what they're watching on TV. These are the Pokemon that they see on the TV show right now. These are the Pokemon that they play the video games with. Like, it's just weird to me that the investor bros and the money bros are like, oh, well,
they shouldn't be upset about not getting the new set.
Yeah, of course there are. Like, of course they want to get the new set. They watch all of these Pokemon content creators and YouTubers ripping open the brand new set and hyping it up to hell. So of course they want the new stuff when it's like, that's all they're seeing. They see commercials for it. They see ads for it. They watch their favorite YouTubers rip this shit open. It's also just as valid for adults to be upset that they can't easily access the new products. It's upsetting when you are standing in line behind a grown man that takes every single product off the shelf for himself and leaves nothing behind for everyone else. Of course that's frustrating. Anybody would be frustrated if they are excited about getting something and they can't get it because greedy adult men are taking all the products off of the shelves and then calling you a fucking little crybaby bitch on the internet because you can't spend $200 on a fucking ETB. So yes, people are upset, like, obviously. On top of that, acting like the old sets are super available and accessible is wrong and a lie. You can't go back 4 sets. They're not on the shelves anymore. If you can't go to the store and pick it up at the store on the shelf, then it is harder to get. It's harder to find. It's probably more expensive now. It's not on the Target shelves. It's not at Walmart. It's not at any stores that will sell it to you at MSRP at this point. The only Pokemon product I've seen on the shelves as of recently is the Charizard EX Premium Collection Box, which is like $80 in most stores. And most people don't have enough money to drop $80 on like a premium collection box. Like, that is a premium item. Just like most people don't have $120 to drop on a fucking ETB. So even if you wanted to like go back and collect the older sets, it's not like it's that easy or affordable either. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with collectors and hobbyists and children wanting to open the new sets and being upset that they can't find them. And they have every right to come on the internet and call you out for scalping them because it's shitty and greedy of you. And if you're gonna get upset and butthurt that people are calling you a shitty person for being a shitty, greedy person, then maybe like don't do that. This person says, "Thank you for posting this video so I know another scalper not to buy from." Yeah, he did kind of dig himself in a hole here. A lot of people are just simply not gonna buy. He pretty much outed himself as a scalper now. You're a great example of everything wrong with the people in the hobby right now. Newsflash, that's not what the hobby was about. It's never been about making money, but enjoying the hobby. Exactly. This person hit it on the nose. This hobby has never been about making money for the average Pokemon fan. Most consumers are these average collector people like myself who have just been fans for a very long time and collect for nostalgic reasons. And then you've got kids who make up a large part of the hobby as well, who are also collecting for wholesome reasons. Most of the Pokemon fan base is not collecting to invest, is not collecting to make money. And at that point, you're not even really collecting. You're literally just sitting on shit in your mom's basement for like 5 to 10 years, and then selling it all anyway. All this shit behind me, I'm not selling this shit ever. Somebody asked me recently how much I would like sell my poncho for. I'm not selling this. I do get bored of cards here and there and like trade them or sell them just to get something new. But most collectors are in this to collect and keep. Most people don't get into this hobby to invest. This hobby's never been about making money until very recently, when all these weird, sad men came in here and started buying cases and cases of boxes and hyping up sets and hyping up cards and trying to make money being YouTubers and being investors in Pokemon because they don't want to work a real job. I mean, that's literally what it's come to at this point. But this has never ever been what Pokemon was about, ever. You people need to understand that this guy bought all of that product for distribution prices, 30 to 40% below MSRP, and he's calling you poor because you can't afford a $200 ETB. The hypocrisy of sitting there with all your sealed cases of product in the back of you that you did probably buy for below MSRP prices. And then he's looking at all of us, pointing the finger at, collectors and people who are upset about this situation. Basically saying, you don't work hard enough, you're too broke, you can't afford this hobby. You don't really want to be in this hobby unless you want to work 3 jobs to afford Pokemon cards. It's our fault as collectors for not wanting to spend $120 on an ETB. Yes, that makes sense. Meanwhile, you have cases of things behind you that you paid less than MSRP for. Got it. We just don't want it bad enough, guys. We don't want it. We don't want the success. Which is a good segue into our next comment. The issue is, you equate those in the hobby with investors. Many people in the hobby aren't investors, but regular players, regular collectors, regular players, regular people. The investor bros do not understand this point that we're making. Talking about gains and wins, when people just want some product to rip, collect, and play with, is not the same as selling. Please stop assuming that being successful in the hobby means being able to sell for gains. You are absolutely missing what the hobby is. This isn't a hobby for you. This is a business. And that's exactly right. These people don't treat the hobby like a hobby at all because they're not actually fans of Pokemon. They are treating this like a business because the only thing that they are interested in this space is making money. They are not interested in collecting. They are not interested in being a part of our community. They literally are just here to try and make as much money as they possibly can off of collectors who actually want the stuff. Being successful in the hobby, that's not a thing. Collecting what makes you happy is the only successful part about this hobby that you can possibly achieve. Being successful in the hobby isn't a thing. You can be successful in a business. You can't be successful at... entering the mind of these people is just very cringy. It's all cringe as fuck. Imagine this being your life, and you're sitting in front of a camera telling people that they're just too broke and they don't work hard enough and they're not successful enough to have Pokemon cards. It's just so bad. This is my favorite comment because I rarely see people making this point. I make this point constantly, but I don't see it floating around as much as it should. What's the point of scalpers pushing us hobbyists out? We don't want to collect brown boxes like you. Push us out. Good luck selling this later on for your insane prices. Watch these scalpers sell everything for MSRP or less when they all realize they can't sell them. This is a huge, huge point I've been trying to make this entire time. The more collectors that you push out of the hobby, which with the rate that we're seeing is going to be more and more with every single set that gets released that ends up being scalped like this, you're going to just end up pushing tons and tons of collectors out. A lot of people already skipped Prismatic altogether and just don't even plan to bother anymore with it. Journey Together is going to be insanely impossible to find as well. The new Glory of the Team Rocket set that's going to come out is going to be impossible to find as well. All of this piling up is going to cause more and more and more collectors to leave and want really nothing to do with this anymore because, as one of our previous commenters said, this hobby is not fun when it's stressful. It's not meant to be stressful. Nobody's going to stick around if all it's doing is stressing them out and costing them all of their money. And on top of that, the more collectors you push out, right, the more kids that can't collect this stuff while they're little, the less these scalpers and investor people are going to be able to sell. In the future, if kids never got to rip the set when they were young, they really might not care about it all that much when they're older. For me, the sets that I really love to collect now are the ones that I ripped when I was a kid, because it gives you that nostalgic feeling. What draws me in is the nostalgia, and that's what draws most collectors into this hobby. When a lot of these kids grow up, they're going to want to revisit the sets that they opened when they were kids, because it's going to give them that same feeling that we all have now as adults. Well, guess what? Most of the kids didn't get to open Prismatic. Most of them didn't get to open Surging Sparks. All these sets that get scalped and the kids aren't able to open, they're not going to look back and be like, man, I really want to rip that set. I remember ripping that when I was a kid and that was really fun. No, they're probably going to look right over it. So this is a really, really good and important point to make, because all of these people who are investing in cards are also low-key killing the hobby a little bit. I'm not saying Pokemon will ever be completely dead. It can't be. It's like the highest grossing media franchise of all time. It can't ever really die out, I don't think. But it absolutely can take a huge dive. It's crashed in the past. And I think that we're going to see it crash again. That is my opinion on it. I don't think the investor bros are being smart at all by stealing all the product off the shelves. I really think this is going to have detrimental effects on the Pokemon hobby. Like I said, tons of collectors are leaving every day at this point. People are just fed up with this behavior and this bullshit. It's not fun if it's stressful. That's just the bottom line. And people like this, Nostalgia Nomics or Alex, who treat the hobby like a business and not like a hobby. That is the problem with the Pokemon hobby today, not the collectors who don't work hard enough and are not successful enough. It's a shame to see even the smaller YouTube Pokemon creators having this mindset. It's really a shame. Let me know what you guys think though below. I always love to hear everybody's opinions. If you're a scalper, get the fuck out. If you guys want to see more videos like this one from me, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!